I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I'm almost as passionate about as Buckeye football, and that's some of the cool stuff that we're doing at the Ohio Department of Transportation. But before I do that, I just want to talk a little bit about Ohio itself. So Ohio is made up of 88 counties. We have 12 districts that service those 88 counties, and we have a central office here in Columbus. One of the cool things about the Ohio Department of Transportation is we operate in a pretty decentralized environment. And so what that means is, are any of you from states that are decentralized, basically decision making more at the local, more district level? So yeah, so you kind of understand some of the challenges as well as some of the opportunities associated with that. But what happens is, you know, we need to rely heavily on consensus as opposed to compliance to get the things done that we need to do. And, you know, each district has its own challenges. They may be related to terrain, to weather, anything like that. And, you know, so what we are proposing or what we're trying to sell from a central office perspective may not necessarily work in that particular district, in that particular situation. So in turn, you know, like I said, we got to be good salesmen. And in turn, sometimes the districts have to be good salespeople, and they need to say, hey, you know what, I like the what, but the why and the how is not going to work here. So they pitch it back to us and say, hey, we're going to do this, but we need to do it this way for these reasons. And I think, you know, we work pretty well together in order to accomplish the things that we need to accomplish. As for myself, you heard earlier, I spent about 18 years. I've been fortunate enough to be on both sides of that aisle, so to speak. I spent about my first 18 years with the department out in District 5, which is just east of here. And while I was there, I got an opportunity. We did a lot of good things, did a lot of great projects, and I had the opportunity to work with and eventually to lead a great team of people. But one of the things about being in the district is, you know, our director likes to say the districts are the retail level. So we're actually out there delivering, we're busy delivering a program. And we don't necessarily have the time to look at or to research any innovative thing that may come out or opportunities such as this. And oftentimes the opportunities we have or the introduction we have to new technologies or innovation are actually at conferences like this. So I hope you all take advantage of the opportunities that you have here over the next couple of days. Get to some of the sessions, and you have some takeaways that you can take back to your organizations. You know, as I talk about what's going on at ODOT, no doubt, if you're gonna pause for a minute and say, "Hey, Dave, you know, we're doing that too." That's not anything groundbreaking, and that's not the intent. You know, we feel like we're some pretty clear leaders as far as state DOTs in some areas, but we're certainly not at the tip of the spear of everything. You know, we believe in our own form of R&D, which everybody knows what R&D stands for, right? Rip off and duplicate. So, you know, and seriously, why would you spend time reinventing the wheel when you can just steal it, add a few spokes, and call it your own? So, you know, but another way I like to look at that is that we're advancing the state of the practice. Okay, we're not rehashing old stuff and trying to figure out, you know, go through the old way or the same way of doing something. We're actually taking what someone else has done and we're advancing it to the next level. And that's hopefully what you all have an opportunity to do here this week. And most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with MAP 21. So MAP 21 was the federal bill prior to the most recent FAST Act. And with MAP 21 came some legislative requirements as well as some opportunities, if you will. So along with MAP 21, you know, there was a federal requirement to come up with a transportation asset management plan. And we kind of jumped headlong into that. We wanted to have, you know, the biggest and the best asset management plan. And the reason is that, you know, we wanted to improve on the planning process and increase the collaboration between our divisions and offices of planning, construction, and then eventually all that stuff that we plan and we build ends up in operations, and somebody's got to maintain it. So we wanted all those groups working together to have a more collaborative approach to our projects and be able to life cycle the assets, things like that. NEPA assumption was a kind of a unique opportunity that came out of MAP 21. So under the NEPA assumption, the state DOTs can assume the roles and responsibilities of federal highway as it relates to NEPA compliance. So Ohio was the third state behind, I believe it was California and Texas, to actually take over for NEPA compliance. So, you know, for those of you, most of you probably know, but just if you don't, NEPA is a huge umbrella, and it covers things like endangered species, Title VI, Clean Water Act, air quality and conformity, protection of parks and recreations, or 4F facilities, as well as public involvement. The idea behind NEPA assumption is that every time we have to interact with an agency, that costs us time. And through NEPA assumption, if we can minimize the touch points with the various organizations, we can save time, and everybody knows that time is money. So right now we're estimating that we've been doing this about 4 years now. We've taken over the role and responsibilities, and we're estimating that we saved about $22 million in these 4 years getting projects to construction quicker. On the engineering side, performance-based project development, or performance-based practical design's been a buzz term, if you will. We used to call it engineering judgment, but we're using this performance-based project development term now. And you know, it's the idea of just because we're there doesn't mean we have to bring everything up to standard. You know, there are other ways, other things that need to be addressed other than every geometric deficiency, if you will, that doesn't meet current standards just because we're there. So, you know, it kind of introduces the concept of designing up. Look at what you have, see how you can make it better. And the money you save by doing just that, by kind of taking a look at it and saying, you know what, if this isn't broke, we don't need to fix it. We can reinvest in the overall system. And if you look at the entirety of the infrastructure, the entirety of the system, we can put out many good projects as opposed to designing or designing one or two great projects that bring everything up to standard that may never get built. You know, I mentioned asset management earlier, and as part of asset management, one of the things that we've started to do is we've started a really robust culvert inspection program. And one of the things that helps us do that is the hydraulic inspection vehicle. Is there anybody from Minnesota here? All right, so we can't take credit for it, Jeff. So we actually stole that idea from Minnesota, or Jeff did, and it's very simple. It's a remote control vehicle that is essentially equipped with a light and a camera, and it links to a mobile device. It's able to record video as well as and display it real time. So we can put that thing down, we can run it through a culvert, and we can get a pretty good idea of, you know, what the condition of that culvert is. And at $1,500, it's a lot cheaper than some of the more expensive alternatives that are out there for doing pretty much the same thing. So on the construction side, so you know, over the past several years, we've averaged about $300 million in asphalt material that we put down on the roadways. That's about 18 to 20% of our capital allocation. And you know, with that type of investment, it really makes a lot of sense that we take every effort that we can to make sure that we're putting that the material that we're putting down is the best product that we can put down on our roadways. And there's a couple ways we're looking at trying to improve that process. One is with a device called a paver-mounted thermal profile, or PAVE-IR, as it's known in the industry. Essentially, this thing, it provides a thermal image of the pavement as it comes out of the paver. So they can easily see, you know, if there's any defects related to temperature, segregation, or anything like that. Gives instantaneous feedback back to the operator, back to the crews. They can make adjustments and move on down the road. So that takes care of our laydown operation. Once we go through once we have the laydown operation, then we got to get this material compacted. And one of the problems that we always seem to have with compaction is you know, whether we adequately cover the mat. And by using pavers that are mounted with very sophisticated GPS units, we're able to actually map the pavement mat. So how's that? Map the pavement mat. So the operator knows where they're at, where they've been, and where they need to go. So you know, they can roll back and forth on this, and that helps us to get closer to that optimum density. Once we do that, we know we've got a good product down. And now we look at, on the back end of that, it's like, okay, how are we going to inspect this? How are we going to make sure that that we got what the specification said, or we got as close to that density as we can. So one of the ways that we're looking to do that is with a rolling density meter. We recently purchased it, and this density meter actually measures the dielectrics in the pavement. I don't know what that means. I talked to Sargan. He was explaining it to me earlier. But so, but you can actually correlate the dielectrics to the pavement density, which is what we're really after. And we know that when we have a pavement that's within, 95% of its optimum density, it's going to last a pretty long time. About 4 years ago, I think it was, we were fortunate enough to be audited by the Ohio EPA with regard to our stormwater management plan. So, no, seriously, I mean, we want to be good stewards of the environment. And one of the things that, and so we do take these findings very seriously, but one of the things that it revealed is, and probably you all struggle with it as well, is we had some issues with compliance when it comes to the installation and maintenance of our construction BMPs. So we actually went out and purchased a proprietary software. It's known as SWIP Tracker. And what it enables us to do is actually go out. We can go out again with a mobile device. We can take pictures of a location that should have a BMP or a BMP that needs to be maintained. It'll geolocate that picture. We can send it to the project engineer, whoever's responsible for the installation and maintenance of that particular BMP, and it has a ball and court feature, so they get an assignment. They have to do something with it. It's not like in the old days, you shoot them an email and say, hey, this needs fixed, and it goes in the pile with all the other emails, and it never gets addressed. So it's this whole ball and court feature, I think, is something that's really going to help us out. We're on our second, I guess, go at Econstruction. And the particularly cool thing about this Econstruction initiative that we're getting ready to pilot right now is the software that we're going to use was actually developed on one of our projects, our Portsmouth Bypass project, which is our first and only P3 here in the state of Ohio. It's about a $450 million project. And the idea, again, is that we have the ability to collect and store and retrieve, geotagged photos along with the inspection documentation that goes along with that particular asset or that attribute. Another ball and court feature, we can, it allows us to workflow non-conforming items back to the contractor for correction. On the operations side, ODOT's mission, our mission statement actually says to provide for the easy movement of people and goods from place to place, we will. First, we're going to take care of what we have. We're going to make our system work better, we're going to enhance capacity, and we're going to improve safety. So I mentioned asset management earlier, and our asset management plan and that collaboration between planning, engineering, and construction actually goes a long way towards taking care of what we have. We've recently jumped on the TSMO bandwagon to help take care of those other three tenants. For those of you who don't know, TSMO it stands for Transportation Systems Management and Operation. And really, at a high level, what TSMO is we know that through we're able to improve safety as well as travel time reliability if we can simply just switch from monitoring congestion to actually managing it. It's one thing to say, well, I know between 7:30 and 9, westbound 70 is going to be backed up and it's going to take me an extra 25 minutes to get to work. But when we start targeting improvements and using TSMO strategies to target improvements, we can actually make an impact in that travel time. We can actually improve safety. Another thing that we're doing is we're actually outfitting our vehicles with AVL GPS units on our operations fleet, primarily our dump trucks that are out there to combat snow and ice. And AVL is automatic vehicle locator. As well as, and then the GPS component associated with that. Essentially, this is a camera with a GPS device. So, and what it does is it now allows the drivers and managers to more effectively manage storms and incidents. So, the supervisor sitting back at the office can actually see what the driver sees on their computer screen, on their laptop, what have you. It also tracks when a vehicle was last on a route. So if we know as conditions change throughout a storm, we can know the last time that particular route was treated. If we have an incident, we also know that, hey, this vehicle was treated at this time. We can see visually the condition of the pavement at that time. And overall, again, it just helps the managers as well as the employees more effectively manage the storm. We're doing a lot of construction. We're doing a lot of maintenance, and one of the things that we want to make sure that we do is continue to be good stewards of the environment. And one of the ways that we're trying to do that is with our pollinator program. And it's not complicated, really. It's really a change in how we manage our vegetation. And what we're trying to do is let some of the areas that are within our right-of-way return to their more native condition, I guess. So, and the idea behind this is that we're able to provide a habitat for the pollinators as well as the monarch butterfly. I mean, the monarch butterfly is currently being studied to determine if it needs to be on the endangered species list. And, we're trying to, we along with all the other states, I believe, are trying to make sure, do our best to make sure that that doesn't happen because, we don't want that to happen to the monarch butterfly, but the direct impact on us is it makes building and maintaining our facilities that much harder if we have another something else that's on the endangered species list. There were over 300,000 crashes on Ohio roadways last year, and those crashes resulted in about 110,000 injuries, about 8,800 severe injuries, and the most unfortunate part of that is those accidents resulted in about 1,180 fatalities. So we know that about 95% of, 95% of all crashes are caused by driver error. And that could be anything from distracted driving to speeding, DUI, or the driver just made a mistake. We also know that, we can't engineer our way out of all those problems. So manufacturers have been working for a long time to make vehicles safer. But the next big step in that is through continued use of technology in creating autonomous and connected vehicles. So in order to advance that technology here in the state of Ohio, in January of this year, Governor Kasich created DriveOhio. He also tapped my former boss, Jim Barnett, to be the executive director. So, but what DriveOhio is, it really is, it's a group of folks and the goal is to bring together various state agencies to provide a coordinated response for the state on behalf of the state of Ohio on any initiatives that have to do with smart mobility. So we've got ODOT, ODPS, OIT, Workforce Development, PUCO, Jobs Ohio, the Turnpike, Insurance, and the Adjutant General's Office, all involved. Again, it's to serve as a single point of contact, single point of entry for all smart mobility initiatives here in this state. Their idea is that they'll foster collaboration and cooperation among the agencies and municipalities and help to break down some of the government barriers that are associated with deploying this type of technology here in the state. Just a few things that DriveOhio is involved in. I-670 Smart Lane. So we've got about a 4-mile section of 670 that's just north of downtown here. In the eastbound direction in the evening, it's absolutely horrific in terms of traffic and delays. Very congested, but we only need that extra capacity for a couple hours a day. So instead of building a whole new lane to go out of town, the idea of opening up the shoulder, it seemed pretty reasonable. It was significantly cheaper than actually building those lanes or that extra lane. We could do it fairly quickly, and again, we're only using that capacity when we need it. When we don't need it, it returns back to a shoulder. US 33 Smart Mobility Corridor. So northwest of here, beginning in Dublin and running all the way up to East Liberty, about 35 miles of US 33, where we've got about 35 miles in the fiber in the ground. And the idea is that we create a redundant fiber loop. We can then install roadside units that will allow for the connection or the connected and the V2V or V2I connectivity. So allow vehicles to essentially talk to each other or allow vehicles to talk to the infrastructure. Connected Marysville is another one. That was actually part of the SPAT challenge that was from Federal Highway. We took 27 in partnership with Marysville. We equipped 27 signals with RSUs. We had a goal of outfitting 1,200 vehicles with onboard units that will actually allow them to interact with the signal phasing or see the display of the signal phasing and timing at those intersections. And last but not least, in June of 2006, City of Columbus won the $40 million Smart City grant, or Smart City Challenge. And they additionally received a $10 million grant from Vulcan Inc. So Vulcan Inc. was founded by Paul Allen. For those of you who don't know, Paul Allen was the co-founder of Microsoft. They in turn used the grants to leverage about $500 million in public and private pledges. And the goal of Smart Columbus, it goes far beyond transportation. They want to provide a safer, more reliable, sustainable city through the use of technology, improve access to jobs, to health care, and goods and services for both the citizens of Columbus as well as the visitors. So, I've been talking for, anybody wear a watch anymore? Everybody's got a cell phone there. So, I've been talking for a while now, and you're probably saying, well, that's good stuff, Dave, or maybe not. But, but I've heard two things that are even remotely close to hydraulic engineering, so, why should I care about this? To me, I think it matters because with every one of the things that I mentioned, at some point in the process, there were academics, there were policymakers, and there were practitioners that were involved. And at any point in that process, one or more of them could have said, you know what, this isn't worth the trouble. It's not worth the risk. So, why don't we just keep doing things the old way? But they didn't. And I think that's why you all are here today. It's because you want to look for new ways, new innovations, new ways to advance the practice of hydraulic engineering and maybe take something back to your state. So, in our Office of Tourism has a slogan, and the slogan is "Find it here." And I would say that, basically, I looked at your agenda earlier this morning, and I would say that, if you're interested in hydraulic engineering and you want something that you can take back to your organization to help advance the state of the practice, that you can find it here. So with that, I hope you all have a great conference. It's 2.5 days, and appreciate the opportunity to get up here and speak in front of y'all. So thank you.